Elias Rowan learned about the betrayal on an ordinary evening, the kind that never warns you before it ruins your life. Rain tapped against the apartment windows, steady and dull, while the city hummed below. Elias had just returned from a long day, his mind tired but calm. He expected nothing more than silence and rest. Instead, he found an envelope slipped under his door, plain and unmarked, like it did not want attention. He almost ignored it. Almost inside was a letter printed on crisp paper. At first, the words made no sense. Its name stood at the top, followed by legal terms and numbers that felt distant and cold. Then understanding struck him all at once, sharp and breath-stealing. The company he had helped build from nothing had been sold. Not discussed, not delayed, sold completely. And the signature that sealed it was not his. Marcus Hale. Elias sat down slowly, the letter slipping from his fingers to the floor. His chest tightened, not from panic but from a deep disbelief. Marcus was not just his business partner. Marcus was the man who had shared cheap meals, long nights, and risky dreams with him. They had promised each other fairness. They had promised no big moves without mutual agreement. That promise was now nothing more than a memory. The past rushed back without mercy. Elias remembered the early days when both of them worked out of a cramped room with flickering lights and borrowed equipment. Marcus had always been bold, always ready to push forward. Elias had been careful, steady, focused on long-term growth. They balanced each other, or so Elias believed. Every deal, every small win had felt like a shared victory. Trust had been the foundation of everything. That trust shattered in seconds. Elias reread the letter again and again, hoping he had misunderstood. But the facts did not change. Had finalized the sale weeks ago. The company no longer existed as theirs. Elias had been removed quietly, legally, and completely. There was no mistake. There was only intention. Without thinking, Elias grabbed his jacket and left the apartment. The rain soaked through his clothes as he walked, but he barely noticed. His feet carried him through familiar streets toward a destination he knew too well. Marcus's office lights were still on. That alone felt like an insult. Marcus looked up when Elias entered, surprise flickering across his face for only a second before it vanished. He did not ask why Elias was there. He already knew. "You should have told me," Elias said, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. Marcus leaned back in his chair, calm and collected. "I planned to," he replied. "After everything was done? After I had nothing left?" Elias asked. Marcus sighed, as if tired of explaining something obvious. This was the only way. The offer wouldn't wait. If you hesitated too much, okay, couldn't risk losing it. The words cut deeper than Elias expected. Hesitated, as if caution were a crime, as if loyalty were weakness. "So you decided for both of us," Elias said. "I decided for the business," Marcus answered. "Someone had to." There was no anger in Marcus's tone. That hurt the most. He truly believed he was right. In his mind, betrayal was simply strategy. Elias realized then that the man he trusted had always been capable of this. Elias had just refused to see it. Elias turned and walked out without another word. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He did not beg. None of it would have mattered. The damage was already done. That night, Elias sat alone in his dark apartment, the city lights casting broken shapes on the walls. The letter lay on the table in front of him, unchanged. The silence felt heavy, pressing down on his thoughts. Anger rose slowly, not loud or wild, but deep and controlled. It wrapped around his chest and settled there. He replayed Marcus's words again and again. Not personal, practical, necessary. Each excuse carved itself into Elias's memory. The betrayal was not sudden anymore. It felt planned, shaped over time. That realization made it worse. Elias did not sleep. Morning arrived without relief. The world moved on as if nothing had happened. Cars passed, people laughed, businesses opened. Elias felt separate from it all, like he was watching life from behind glass. Everything he had worked for was gone, and no one noticed. He began to think. Not wildly, carefully. The first thought was simple. Marcus should not walk away untouched. The second thought followed quickly. Marcus should feel what he made Elias feel. Loss, shock, powerlessness. Elias knew Marcus well. He knew his habits, his fears, his weak points. Marcus valued control and reputation above all else. The idea formed quietly in Elias's mind, growing clearer with each passing hour. There were ways to expose what Marcus had done. Legal ways. Public ways. Ways that would not break rules but would destroy trust. The thought did not bring joy. It brought focus. Yet beneath the anger, another feeling stirred conflict. Elias had never been someone who acted on impulse. He believed in fairness, in patience. Revenge went against everything he thought he was. But the pain was fresh, and the wound was deep. Letting it go felt impossible. As days passed, Elias gathered information. He reviewed contracts, emails, and records he still had access to. The deeper he looked, the clearer the truth became. Marcus had been preparing for this move long before Elias suspected anything. Meetings had happened in secret. Decisions had been made quietly. The betrayal was not sudden. It was deliberate. Each discovery hardened Elias's resolve. At the same time, Marcus moved forward with confidence, told himself he had done what was required. He believed Elias would eventually understand. In Marcus's mind, success justified everything. He avoided thinking about the friendship they once shared. It was easier to see Elias as someone left behind by his own caution. Marcus slept well at night. That knowledge haunted Elias. One evening, Elias stood in front of his bathroom mirror and barely recognized himself. His face looked sharper, his eyes darker. The man staring back seemed driven by something heavy and dangerous. Elias wondered. When anger had taken over so quietly, he asked himself what he truly wanted. Justice or satisfaction? Closure or control? The desire for revenge promised clarity. It offered a clean ending to the chaos inside him. But even as the plan began to take shape, doubt lingered. Would hurting Marcus heal him? Or would it trap him forever in this moment of betrayal? The question followed him everywhere, unanswered. Still, the fire burned. And with each passing day, Elias moved closer to a choice that would change everything. Elias did not rush into action. Revenge, he learned, moved best when it stayed quiet. Each morning began the same way. Strong coffee, a blank stare, and a mind already racing. He no longer woke with hope. He woke with purpose. The anger had settled into something colder, something sharper. It guided his steps without shouting. He spent his days tracing the path Marcus had taken to remove him. Emails revealed careful wording. Messages showed friendly tones, hiding firm decisions. Elias noticed dates that did not match the story Marcus had told him. There were meetings Elias had never been invited to, calls made late at night, documents shared under private labels. Marcus had not acted out of fear or pressure. He had acted with confidence. That truth hurt, but it also cleared Elias's thoughts. At night, memories tried to break through the focus. Laughter from years ago. Late drives after long workdays. Moments when Marcus had defended Elias in front of others. Elias pushed those memories aside, but they returned anyway, uninvited. The mind did not care about plans. It cared about history. The conflict inside Elias grew heavier. Some days he felt strong, certain that exposing Marcus was the only fair outcome. Other days he felt tired, wondering why he was still tied to someone who had already moved on. The desire for revenge promised relief, but it demanded constant attention, It fed on his energy and returned nothing in peace. Marcus, on the other hand, stepped fully into his new role. He spoke confidently in meetings, praised by people who knew nothing of how the success had been achieved. He told himself Elias would have slowed everything down. In Marcus's mind, betrayal was a harsh word used by those who could not adapt. He believed he had chosen progress over sentiment. Still, there were moments when Marcus paused. Sometimes, while alone in his office, he remembered Elias's face that night. Not angry, just disappointed. Marcus dismissed the feeling quickly. Doubt was a threat to momentum, and Marcus refused to lose speed. Elias watched from a distance. He followed public records, press mentions, quiet praise. Each update tightened. The knot in his chest, Marcus was thriving. The world rewarded him. That imbalance felt wrong. The plan grew piece by piece. Elias identified pressure points that did not require lies or threats. Truth, when revealed at the right moment, could do more damage than force. He drafted timelines, wrote summaries, connected details. Everything had to be clean. No mistakes. No emotional leaks. But planning revenge changed Elias in ways he did not expect. He became impatient with small talk. He avoided friends. Conversations felt shallow when compared to the storm inside his head. People noticed the distance but did not understand it. Elias did not explain. Words felt useless. Late one night, Elias opened an old photo saved on his phone. It showed him and Marcus standing outside their first office, younger, tired, smiling like the future was certain. Elias stared at it longer than he meant to. The anger flickered. The pain remained. He asked himself again what he hoped to gain. Marcus' losing face would not return the past. Public truth would not erase the sense of being used. Elias knew this. Still, stopping felt like surrender. The moral struggle sharpened when Elias discovered something unexpected. Marcus had bent rules, but not broken them. Everything was technically legal. That meant exposing the truth would not bring legal justice, only public judgment. The line between fairness and punishment blurred. Was he seeking balance, or was he seeking to hurt? The question echoed in his thoughts as the plan neared completion. Meanwhile, Marcus felt the pressure of success tighten. Growth demanded more sacrifices. Trust was harder to build than he expected. Partners questioned him closely. He answered smoothly, but the questions lingered. Sometimes he wondered if Elias would speak out. He convinced himself Elias wouldn't. Elias had always been too careful. That assumption fueled Elias's resolve. Elias imagined the moment the truth would surface, the silence that would follow, the shift in how people looked at Marcus. The satisfaction he expected felt distant, unclear. Instead of excitement, Elias felt tension, like standing on the edge of something irreversible. Sleep came in short bursts. Dreams were restless. Elias often woke with his heart racing, unsure whether he was running toward justice or away from himself. One evening, Elias met an old colleague who asked casually if he missed the company. The question struck deeper than intended. Elias answered politely, then walked away with his hands shaking. He realized how much of his identity had been tied to what Marcus had taken. Revenge felt like a way to reclaim that lost self. But reclaiming something by destroying another person came with a cost. The plan was ready. The evidence was organized. The timing was perfect. Elias could act at any moment. Was the choice? Standing alone in his apartment, Elias looked at the city lights once more. They no longer felt distant. They felt judgmental, like witnesses waiting for a verdict. His reflection in the window looked tired, worn by thoughts that refused to rest. He understood then that revenge was not a single act. It was a path. And once stepped onto, it was hard to leave. The weight of that realization pressed down on him as he prepared for the moment that would decide everything. The final moment arrived without drama. No loud sound, no warning, just a quiet morning and a choice that could not be undone. Elias sat at his desk as sunlight pushed through the curtains. The city was awake, alive, careless. His laptop was open, one folder, one message prepared. One action away from changing Marcus's life. Everything Elias had planned was there, clean and clear. Truth arranged like a weapon. His hands rested on the keyboard, steady but heavy. This was the end of the road he had walked for weeks. All the anger, the late nights, the planning it, had led here. There was no confusion left, only decision. Elias thought of the first day he met Marcus. The confidence, the handshake, shared belief that they were building something honest. That memory hurt, but it no longer controlled him. What mattered now was what came next. If you imagine the aftermath if he sent the message. The calls Marcus would receive. The sudden silence from partners. The questions that would not stop. Marcus would be forced to explain himself. He would feel exposed, small, watched. The balance would shift. Elias waited for satisfaction to rise at the thought. It did not. Instead, a calm settled in, strange and unexpected. He realized he was no longer angry in the way he had been. The fire that once pushed him forward had burned down to embers. What remained was clarity. Revenge would prove a point, but it would also tie Elias to Marcus forever. Every headline, every whisper would pull Elias back into the past he was trying to escape. He would win, but he would not be free. Elias leaned back and closed his eyes. Across the city, Marcus stood in front of a mirror, adjusting his tie. He had an important meeting, another step forward, yet something felt off. A tension he could not explain. Success had come fast, but peace had not followed. He told himself it was pressure, nothing more. But beneath that confidence, a quiet fear lived. He knew what he had done. He knew Elias was capable. Marcus avoided thinking about it, but the thought returned often in the early hours of the morning. When no one was watching, doubt found him. Back in the apartment, Elias opened a blank document instead. He wrote slowly, carefully, not an attack, not a threat. Just the truth. He described the betrayal as it was, without emotion, without exaggeration. He named the choices Marcus had made and how they had affected him. He did not ask for apologies. He did not demand justice. He wrote to close the door. When he finished, Elias read the message once. Felt complete. Honest. Enough. He sent it. The message landed quietly in Marcus's inbox. No audience. No noise. Just words. Marcus read it alone. At first he felt defensive. His old arguments rushed back. Kay told himself he had done nothing wrong, that the outcome justified the method. But as he read on, the defenses weakened. Elias had not accused him. He had not begged. He had simply spoken. That made it harder to ignore. Marcus felt something twist inside his chest. Regret, maybe, or recognition. He saw himself through Elias's words stripped of excuses. The cost of his decision stood clear. He had one, but something human had been lost along the way. Marcus typed a response. Deleted it. Tried again. Deleted that too. In the end, he sent nothing. Silence followed. Days passed. Elias waited for a reaction that never came. No public fallout. No confrontation. No revenge fulfilled. And yet something inside him felt lighter. The constant pressure eased. His thoughts slowed. He slept through the night for the first time in weeks. He began to rebuild quietly, not accompany himself. Elias returned to simple routines. Morning walks, honest conversations, small goals that belonged only to him. The past still existed, but it no longer ruled him. The betrayal became a chapter, not the whole story. Marcus, meanwhile, carried the message with him. It changed how he moved through the world. He noticed how often he justified his choices, how quickly he dismissed others. Success felt thinner now, less solid. The silence from Elias was louder than any attack would have been. He realized too late that winning without integrity was a fragile victory. Months later, Elias stood in a new office, smaller but his own. The space was quiet, clean, honest. He looked out the window and saw the city not as a battlefield, but as a place full of beginnings. He thought once more about revenge. He understood now that revenge had never been about Marcus. It had been about Elias trying to regain control after losing trust. Walking away had given him something better than victory. It had given him peace. Elias smiled faintly, not with happiness, but with acceptance. The betrayal had shaped him. The choice had freed him. And that, he knew, was enough.